Welcome to the Code with Jason meetup. Today is SaturnCI as usual. Um, Here we are. I'm going to pull up my terminal and check on my reminder to see where we left off last time. I apparently don't have a reminder, so I'll look at the Git log to see where we left off last time.
Payment, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, we were working on this billing report. Yeah, so if we go here to billing, I don't know if you saw this part, Sanjeet. There are now dates that you can click on, so you can see. I don't know. Here's all the here's all the jobs for June.
You're not sharing yet?
Oh, whoops, sorry. um. Oh, weird. It says that I am screen sharing,
Oh,
but maybe the video is not coming through for you yet. Let me try to stop sharing and then reshare, and maybe that'll.
I can see now.
Oh, okay. Okay. Um, So yeah, you see this menu here, and we can click around and see reports for various different months.
Yep.
And obviously, visually, this is very rough, but that's not the part that I'm concerned with right now.
Okay.
Okay. So let me go back to home here. And let's think, what is the next priority? So something that I talked about in the last meeting, the Wednesday meeting, which you of course weren't here for, Sanjeet, um, is what do I want it to be my next priority given that I have this billing in place? So each month you can see, you've incurred so much for that month. And so now like I could have somebody theoretically use this and even pay for it. I don't have to have the payments built into the system. I could just check the report and be like, okay, you owe me 35.50. Send me it in my Venmo account or whatever. Doesn't have to be actually hooked up through the system yet. So that's no longer a blocker. And so given that, what do I want to focus on next? There are some other things to do with billing that I could theoretically do next. Like for example, there's actually some problems with the way the billing data is designed. So right now, we take the duration of the job and multiply it by the billing rate to get the billing amount for that job. But if I were to change the billing rate, it would change history. And then even though August has already happened, if I were to double it, this would go from 35.50 to 76, even though that obviously doesn't make sense because it's in the past and the past doesn't change.
So we need some sort of config table or something that holds the rate, isn't it? So that rate can have an end date and then a new rate can start.
That'd be one way to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Another way is just at the time that each job happens, we can take a snapshot, say, okay, this job cost 20 cents,
Yep.
and we don't necessarily care what the rate was at that point in time. The important thing is just we capture the charge at that point in time. That's one way to do it. So there's some problems there that certainly need to be addressed at some point. Do I want to address that now or do I not? I'm not sure. I'm going to go back to here and let's think of the big picture. And Sanjeet, I'm thinking through some of this stuff for the first time right now. So I don't have like I don't have a plan. I'm showing everybody exactly how the sausage is made. This
Yeah.
is this is decision making in real time.
Yep.
So, one of the reasons that I started this project was to have something to work on in these sessions. But another reason is that I think it's a product the world could actually use, and I would like I would like it if this can turn into a viable business. And so with that in mind, let's think. I want to get as soon as possible to the point where customers can use it, and I have some people who are interested in using it.
Yep.
I think the next thing I need to do with this one particular customer I have in mind is I need to just try to get him set up on the platform. I tried with a different customer in the past, but it was too hard. The system was just not ready. So I need to try that, but it wouldn't be appropriate to show that part to the world because it's somebody's private project. So I can't do that. I need to do that. Need to do that off camera.
Yep.
So with that in mind, what should I do next? And I'm open to your input, Sanjeet. And you don't have to you don't have to supply me with any ideas. This is kind of
Mm.
a
Yeah, yeah.
question for us
Brainstorming.
to just think
Yeah.
about right now. And I'm just sitting here thinking myself.
So what what are your options in terms of technologies that Saturn can plug into?
Yeah, like, do you mean will it run Rails projects,
Yeah.
Python projects, whatever?
Yeah.
That's a good question. Um, Only Rails projects. That's a decision that I'm making because that limits the scope of the work that I'm gonna have to do.
Okay.
Yeah, and as a one man show, that's just one decision that can make things easier. So only Rails for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. So in that case, now, you may be better placed to answer this. So are there typical Rails projects that are out there in the world? Are there any that Saturn CI as it exists right now will not be able to cater to? So I'm thinking
Yeah.
in terms of, the appeal, broadening the appeal of Saturn CI. That's what I'm thinking about.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. And the answer, what projects could Saturn CI not support? The answer is the vast majority of them. The reason is because most production projects, commercial projects that are actually being used and being worked on by a team and stuff like that, their needs are more sophisticated than what I can provide.
Mm, understood.
Yeah. And okay, so it's actually not mainly that, I don't think. Um, it's mainly that there's a switching cost. If they're using like a Circle CI or GitHub Actions right now,
Yep.
there's a cost to switching to Saturn CI, and so people would have to invoke this potentially large cost to switch, and it's kind of a gamble. They don't know if Saturn
Mm,
CI is going to be around for the long haul. They
yep.
don't know if it's necessarily even going to work out great for them. So I think what it's going to make sense for me to go after in the beginning is relatively new projects and even like hobby projects and stuff like that. That's not going to be a good long-term plan, but I think that's what I'm going to have to start with.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, well, one option for proceeding is that I can at least build some of the features that I know that I want and that I know that other people are gonna want when they
Yep.
start using it. Yeah, and coming back to the billing stuff, if there are certain things that I know are gonna need to change, if there are certain things that I know are no good right now, no reason to wait. Might as well fix those things now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So let's address this thing where the billing is no good. Um, I think the scenario should be this: if the billing rate changes, and then we view the charges for an existing job, the charge should not change. The charge for the past should stay the same. So how about let's write a test for that?
Somehow, you have to store the history, isn't it? The whatever charge and leave it static rather than let it dynamically be calculated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see what tests we have right now for billing. We have this one for billing report, and then we have our system specs for billing. We just have the one there. Okay. So let's see. Spec billing. Um, maybe I want to have a new folder called charges. And I don't know what to call it. I'm just going to call it charge spec for the moment. And I'll probably come up with a better name later, but that's what I'll start with. Okay. When the billing rate changes, it does not change past charges. Okay. Now, how is the billing rate currently stored? I don't remember.
It
So
was
let's,
a multiplier or something, a variable that stored it, wasn't it? Yeah.
yeah, I just don't remember exactly where that is. Okay, so we have our billing report. And I don't see that anywhere in here. And here is our billing page. Okay, I see jobs.map charge cents. Excuse me. Um, okay, and I think I'm starting to remember. I don't remember, Sanjeet. Have you seen before this job decorator?
Nope.
Okay. Job decorator. So I'll explain this real quick. So we have this job model, and the job model is mostly mostly has stuff related to actually running jobs. But then there's this kind of other angle to jobs, this billing angle. But I didn't want to mix the like running business with the billing business because those are two very different concerns. And I wanted this job class to be cohesive. I didn't want it to have a miscellaneous mix of different kinds of things. So for that reason, I decided to have this job decorator where I can decorate a job model with these billing related behaviors.
So, you know, billing has been my bread and butter for nearly 25 years,
Oh,
So
wow. Okay.
I think, we are talking about two slightly different things here.
Okay.
One is showing that real-time charge. Yeah, that is what we were playing around with when you see the real-time dashboard as the jobs that are in progress, how much they will cost, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
However, when we are chasing the invoices that the users have to pay you,
Uh-huh.
what you're talking about is not necessarily real-time information. It is more like historied information. So because
Okay.
what happens is that if customers don't have visibility of what the rate is, like at a given point in time,
Uh-huh.
then all sorts of queries happen back and forth. Like, oh well, I thought that
Oh, yeah.
this was the rate at that time, but I've been charged this. Like why is that? So yeah. So to keep your position safe, I think there is some merit. Now, whether that is the priority right now is a slightly different question. But yeah, to keep yourself safe, I think it will help to keep some sort of history as to what the user is has been charged.
That is a very good point. So yeah, maybe we should keep a, snapshot of the
Yep.
charge at that point in time.
Yep.
Yeah, excellent point. I'm really glad you brought that up. Um, okay. So maybe that changes a little bit of what we want to address here. So when the billing rate changes, it's not exactly when the billing rate changes. because it doesn't have to change in order for us to want to have this snapshot. Um, when a job finishes, let's say, it captures the billing rate at that point in time. Um, and it captures the, well, let's just say that for starters. Okay. So we can do this, I suppose. When a job finishes. Okay. Let job create job. Okay. Um, and then we have to have a certain billing rate. Billing rate. Let's close these few things that we don't need right now. Okay. Charge rate. Okay, here I'm calling it a billing rate. Here I'm calling it a charge rate. I think I want to call it a charge rate here also. Okay, and I think I want to make it something different from what it actually is in the application to prevent any kind of mistake. Okay. And I'll run that just to make sure I haven't made any syntactical mistakes or anything. Okay. Okay. Now, if I wanted to, I could just add a column on the jobs table that has like the charge rate and stuff like that. But what I've seen in many projects is database tables that just end up with like 30 columns, and the columns are very miscellaneous. And so the table gets very confusing. I think a lot of people don't think about the idea of making your database model self-evident and easy to understand. Like it's not only valuable to have your code easy to understand, but it's valuable for your database to be easy to understand too.
Yeah, I agree. The table names and the column names should be self-explanatory without any documentation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and what I really don't like is like sometimes there's a column on a table that's only used for one tiny little feature somewhere. It's like null the vast majority of the time. Like that's no good. So I want to be very deliberate about how I design these things. And I'm leaning toward I don't want charge related columns on the jobs table. I think I want a separate table for charges.
Yep.
Um, and so maybe I can do this. Um, expect job dot charge dot rate to equal 0.2. Okay, so this will obviously fail because there's no such thing as this charge model. Um, and so in order to make this test pass, I'm going to have to add that. So let's think about what we want. Okay, so we're going to generate a model called charge with a job and a rate, and that will be a decimal. And let's see, we multiply the job's rate by its duration, and that's how we get the charge. But let me see something here. How's the duration figured? Oops. Okay, the ended at minus the started at. Um, I'm debating in my mind whether I want to take a snapshot of the duration. Because on one hand, that seems redundant, but on the other hand, it maybe seems not redundant. Because in theory, this duration calculation code could change. And so I don't want I don't think I want historical billing to be based on something that's subject to change. Yeah, I think I just convinced myself that I want to keep a snapshot of the duration. Let's see, job duration. Um, we'll make that a decimal also, I guess. Okay. Now here, there's exactly one charge per job. So I want to add a unique index to enforce that there's only one charge per job because it wouldn't make sense for there to be more than one charge per job. Okay. And it wouldn't make sense to have the rate be null. So we'll make that not null. Same with job duration. Okay. I think I'm happy with that. Error. Index charges on job ID already exist. That's interesting. Hmm. Um, oh, I think I understand. Okay. I think there's a an index on job ID based on the fact that it's it's a foreign key. Let's see if we can add the unique index just in line there. How can I add a unique index to, well, can I just do this? Unique true. Let's see. Unknown key unique. Okay. Maybe I just put it in the wrong place. Null false, unique true. Okay. Still says unknown key unique. All right. How can I add a unique index to job ID? Okay. Well, we of course tried that and we saw how that went. So I'll tell ChatGPT about that. Oh, wait, and I had another problem too. I forgot to take this out. Okay. Yeah, and I really don't think this table already exists. So let's check on that. Yeah, there's no charges table there. I'll show this to ChatGPT. Looks like ChatGPT is getting stuck. By the way, I listened to this podcast episode with this AI researcher. He was talking about ChatGPT, and the interview kind of made me realize that ChatGPT is just kind of a smart database. Like it can't really think, it doesn't have a lot of intelligence. It's just a database that fetches answers from the things that it knows. It's
Mhm.
more its strength is in its broad knowledge
Yeah,
rather than its intelligence.
yeah.
But that
If
was
you
an
if you
interesting point.
if you ask something outside of its database, it will not be able to answer, isn't it? That's the type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it can never exercise any kind of creativity or it and its powers of inference are very
Hmm.
limited.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think ChatGPT does not know what it's talking about here. I have a hunch. How can I give the unique index a specific name? So my current hypothesis is that the name of the unique index is conflicting with the name of the index on this foreign key. Okay. Okay. It looks like I was probably right because that worked. Just out of curiosity, let's take a look and see if we can see. Um, okay. Index charges on job ID. Was that what it was called? Yeah, index charges on job ID. So it was conflicting. Okay. All right. And I want to keep my commits as atomic as possible. And so I think I want to add just this charge related migration and stuff like that and have that as one commit. Oops. Spec billing charges, don't want to add that yet. Spec factories charges, I'll add that. Spec models charge spec, I don't want that yet. Okay, and I'm just going to review my changes before I commit them. Okay, I'm going to do this on a separate branch. Let's call it charge model. Let's say add charge model. Okay, so the idea here is that we're working on adding this new behavior. And I realized that in order to add this, we'll need this new model called charge. But I didn't want to mix in these behavior changes with the addition of this charge model. Um, it was possible to add the charge model without touching any of the behavior whatsoever. And I usually like to do it that way if I can, especially when it
So you
comes to deploying changes to production. I like to
yeah,
do database migrations in their own separate commits, separate from behavior changes.
absolutely. So again, maybe you're thinking something like a foreign key from foreign key job ID onto the separate table that contains the charges. Is
Yeah.
it, yes, sort of. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and if I mess something up with the schema change, I don't want to have to throw out the baby with the bathwater and revert
Yep.
my behavior change also.
Yep.
Okay, so I will run this and I expect I'll get the same error still. Yep, undefined method charge. So here I will say has one charge. Okay, now it's not giving me that same error anymore. It's saying undefined method rate for nil class, which makes sense because this job does not have any charges. So let's see. It's appropriate for a job not to have any charges when it's before it has finished. And actually, I think I want to add a test for that. Before a job has finished, it does not have a charge. I would expect that to pass. Okay. Now, how do we know the difference between a job that has finished and a job that hasn't? Whoops, duration.
So
Okay,
that if ended at is in the past, that means it's a job in the that is finished, isn't it?
yeah, or even if ended at is present at all.
If ended at is not present, that means that's a job that is in progress, right?
Mm-hmm.
No? Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? Let's do this. That's not necessary to do that, but it at least makes the test more clear.
Yeah.
Oh, undefined method ended at. Okay, so ended at must actually be a method. Okay, it's looking for the job finished event. Okay. So I guess we can't do that, but that's fine. So we want to create a job finished event. So I want to look for job event. I want to look for this in another test to see how I do it. Save me a little effort. Yeah. So here we create a job finished event, and we expect that that gives it a charge. This is, of course, still not going to pass. Okay. So let's look at this job event model. So how can I make it so that when I create this job finished event, it creates this charge record? One option is on this job event model, I could add a callback and I could
Yeah.
say if if the type is finished, then create a charge for the job.
Hmm.
But I'm hesitant to use a callback. I don't think callbacks are always bad, but I do think it calls for extreme care because you can very easily create a very confusing system.
Yeah.
Because when you
Sort of
use, yeah, go ahead.
a bit like last resort, that type of thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because when you have a lot of callbacks, you have to think, okay, when this gets saved, this callback gets invoked, which makes this other callback get invoked, which in turn calls this other callback, and it becomes very hard to follow very quickly, especially when the callbacks are conditional, which this one would have to be. So here's another idea. There could be some kind of method like, for example, job dot finish, and that could create the finished event. Let's explore that option. Whoops, not private. Okay. So we make the job finish, and then we expect the charge to be here, which it obviously still won't be. But now in here, we can say charge dot. I actually don't know how we make it, how we create it. Let's see. Maybe just charge dot create rate. I'll just hard code it for a second. Let's see if that works. Undefined method create for nil class. Okay. So I have to do it in some other way. I don't know what that way is. So we'll ask ChatGPT. And this is a perfect question for ChatGPT because it's just totally knowledge based. It doesn't require ChatGPT to be smart. Oops. Okay, and finally I'll show it the error message. Okay. Create charge. Now that's a native Rails method. Okay. Create charge. Okay, we'll see what happens there. Okay, we at least get a different error. No value in job duration. Yeah, so let's add that. Okay, now it's expecting 0.2 and it got 0.1. All right, now I know I don't want this for this. We want the charge rate. Actually, it seems kind of weird that this is defined here in this job decorator. We want it defined somewhere else. Maybe in the application configuration.
Are you thinking sort of, if you want to make a change, you can one place to look at that type of thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
How can I add a custom config setting here for charge rate? Config.x. Okay, well, let's try config.billing. Oh, and I guess I'll want to change this here also. Okay. Rails dot configuration dot billing dot charge rate. I'll change this formatting so we can read this a little more easily. Okay. Now what do we get? Undefined method billing for blah, blah, blah. Okay. I will show this to ChatGPT. Session has expired. Well, that's
Oh,
inconvenient. Okay, and I want to show it where I'm using this also. Is there something special about config.x? Seems weird. What about this? Can I just do this? Can I just do config.charge rate? Okay, apparently I can do that. So I will do that. Okay, so I'm expecting 0.2. Oh yeah, I meant to, my real rate is 0.1, but I don't want my test tightly coupled to whatever my billing rate at any point in time happens to be. So let's see how we can decouple these things. Here's one option. We can pass it in like that, or we could use a stub because that seems kind of weird to have that parameter there. I'm not actually sure how I'd do that. How would I stub the value of rails.configuration.charge rate? Oh, okay. Okay. So I'm allowing rails.configuration to receive charge rate and return 0.2. Okay. I think I like that way of doing it. So before I continue, do you understand, Sanjit, why I wanted to do that instead of going by the real charge rate?
not quite, I had to say.
Yeah, okay. Um, let me try to explain that a little better then. So let's imagine that we're not stepping it. We're just making the rate here 0.1 match my real rate, which is 0.1.
Mhm.
So I run this test and it passes. But then it's a year from now and I say, you know what? I'm charging too little. I need to raise this a little bit. So I'm going to raise it to 15%. then all of a sudden my tests start failing, even though no behavior has changed.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've tightly coupled my tests to
A
an
particular
incidental
rate.
configuration value.
Yep. Yep.
That doesn't really make sense.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, so that's why I wanted to stub that. Okay. Okay, so that test passes. Both these tests pass. And I'm going to check on my previous run here and see if it passed. Okay, yep, when we added the charge model, that worked just fine. So I'll add this. Just going to make sure there's no surprises here. Okay, that all looks good. Make it so that when a job finishes, charges get added. Okay, so there's kind of an issue with this though. When we call job.finish, it adds a charge, but job.finish isn't actually getting called anywhere in the application. It's only ever getting called in tests. So that's no good. We have to enforce somehow that job.finish is going to get called when a job finishes.
Or should we put just job dot finished being in the past and less than system date?
Well, here's the thing though.
Uh-huh.
Um, let's see. Here's where the job actually finishes. The virtual machine that runs the job calls the SaturnCI API, and when the API gets hit, it it hits this and it says mark the job as finished. But when it marks the job as finished, it doesn't actually create any charges for the job because we defined this finish method just now that adds the charges, but we're not using it. So like when this job finishes, it's not going to create any charges. That's the problem I'm talking about. So I want to change this so it uses this finish method, but I want to make sure to have a test for it. So let's do that. Uh, Finish events controller spec. Is there no test for this? I'm a little surprised about that if that's the case. Okay, job finished event spec. All right. Okay. It increases the count of job events by 1, returns an empty 200 response. And let's say also that it creates a charge for the job. Okay, so it should change job dot reload dot charge from nil to to what? To not nil. But how do we do that exactly? How do I assert that job.charge gets changed to something that's not nil? Oh yeah, I can check for its presence. I'll do this.
Sometimes it is the simplest things, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Little embarrassed for not thinking of that. From false to true. Okay, and I expect this test to fail. Uh-huh. Okay, so now instead of this, I can do job.finish. Wonderful. Okay, and now my expectation is that when we run an additional job, it does get some charges created for it. Okay. Make it so a charge gets created when a job finishes. Okay, so now if we go back to our billing report, oh, there's a bug here. Undefined method charge rate, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I need to restart the server. Need to restart the server because I changed the configuration. Okay. So we're in August here, I see. But all this stuff is suspect now because it's not going off of the charge um, table. It's going off the old way of doing things. So we're going through each of the jobs. Job dot duration. So I think what we want here is job dot charge dot job duration. Number to currency, job dot charge dot amount. And here we want amount cents. No, sorry. We want jobs.map charge dot map amount cents. Okay. So this is not going to work. So undefined method job duration for no class. So we only want to show this stuff if the job has a charge. So we can say this, if job.charge.present. And actually let's do this. Let's actually just only get jobs with charges. And I think we can do away with this job decorator. Okay, and we're getting the jobs from this billing report class. Okay, we want to do jobs.joins charge. That'll get us only jobs with charges. Okay. And since it's getting us only jobs with charges, it's returning nothing because none of our jobs have charges yet. Okay. And let's see, do we have a test for this billing page? We do, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of this fails. Yep, we have at least one failing test here. Okay, on line 15, I want to focus on one failing test at a time. Okay, so it's expecting this job's duration on the page, but it's not seeing it because the job wouldn't show up there because the job doesn't have any charge. Okay, so let's do this. Before job dot finish. I'm not sure if that'll work or not. Undefined method amount for charge. Index line 18. Okay. Well, that's not surprising because the charge model does not have a method called amount. So let's add that and just make it blank for the moment because all we're trying to do is make the failure message go away. Okay, undefined method change. I think I just made a mistake there. Index line 26. Yeah, that was just an error. Oops. Okay, undefined method amount cents for charge. Let's address that. Okay, now it's expecting to find the duration on the page, but it doesn't. That's because we're not going by the job duration anymore. We're going by the job's charges duration. So let's allow any instance of charge to receive job duration and return 420. Okay, now that passes. What about the other test? Okay, those tests are all back to passing. And this test has finished. So I'm curious, will we see that this job got a charge? Oh, look, it has a duration. Okay. Well, thanks for joining me, Sanjeet. Um, I'll keep going for a little bit here still. Um, okay, so we see that it has a duration, but there's no charge. And why is there no charge? Because we're going by the amount, but the amount does not exist. So here I think we can just do the duration times the rate. And then the amount can be amount cents times 100. Ha! Okay, that's a little pricey. I did that wrong. Okay, so amount cents is like wrong. All right, now let's write some tests for this. And we'll write tests for amount, cents, and amount. Okay, it is the duration times the rate. Okay, so we'll create a job. Actually, let's create a charge. Um, create charge, job duration, make it 60 seconds, rate 0.1. And what is 60 times 0.1? Oh, it's 6. I probably could have figured that out. Okay. Expect charge dot amount cents to equal all right, so if it was 60 seconds, it costs um not $6, 6 cents. Hmm. Okay, hang on a second. If it lasts, let's say 300 seconds, 5 minutes, then that should be $3. Yeah, wait. Okay, so 300 seconds times 1/10 is 30. So it won't be $30. Am I thinking that that would be 30 cents? I guess so. Validation failed, job must exist. Okay. I think there's probably a problem with my factory. Yep. Okay. That passes. I'm actually a little surprised. Okay, whoops. Okay, expect charge dot amount to equal 0.3. Okay. Now these charges look more correct. I'm going to convert this duration to an integer because that's, well, no, I'll keep it the way it is. Okay, and I think I'll say fix billing page. Okay, I see that now I have all these past months, even though there's no billable jobs on there. So I think I want to change that. So do I have a test for this? Let's see. Test for billing report spec. Have system billing spec. Maybe I don't have a test for this. I'm curious if this stuff still passes. No, it does not. Okay, let's fix this, I guess. Job at the very beginning of the month. All right. I think we want to make this job finished. We can do this. That's of course not going to work because finish doesn't return a job. Okay. Fix billing report spec. I expect that this will fail. Okay, so we want to fix this. So it only includes the months that have charges in them. So let's do this. I think I want to actually start over with this and use a view component. Okay, so that's now broken, unsurprisingly. So now I think I'm going to end it here. And now when I pick back up, I'll see this comment replaced with this with the view component. That's going to prompt me to install view component because I don't believe I have it installed. And create a view component, and then I can write some tests specifically for that view component. So that will be nice. Yeah, and we see now that this one has failed, which I did expect. Okay, anyway, let's review what we did today. We added this charge model so that instead of being calculated, the charges get snapshotted so that we're guaranteed that the past won't ever change. And then again, next time we'll introduce this view component so we can have navigation for our billing page and have a convenient way to add tests for that. All right. Thank you, dear viewer, for joining me, and I will see you next time.